the president of Morningstar said that we would be as disruptive to the financial service industry as Amazon was to retail. So basically we're known as the Amazon of financial services. Pretty awesome, right? Okay. So also when in my story, I kind of talk up the company, these awesome, true things about our company that people are pretty intrigued about. That they're like, wow, right? So you're already bringing them to a place where they're much more open-minded to be like, this is legit. This is pretty cool stuff. Let me open up my ears, right? So anyways, I also talk about Shack. I talk about how we're independently owned and operated, right? And you get a different experience based on where you're working. I address up front that it's like, that there's 10 offices, 5 minutes from my house, are good offices. One of them honestly is like a bad apple. They don't train their people well. They give us a bad name, right? Notice that's overcoming an objection right now. Have any of you guys ever come across somebody that was like, oh, Prime America, oh yeah, no, I know about that, stuff like that, right? It's like, hold up, that's Prime America, right? Like, this is something completely different. It's like, it's the same company. It's like the same, like, you ever go to like the show, like, or watch the show like Chopped, right? It's like the same basket, whatever, but it depends on that person's skill level, all these things to kind of like give you a masterpiece or not. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we all have access to the same. Prime is a phenomenal company, phenomenal, right? But it's up to each one of us how we present ourselves, how we present the company, and how we leverage the different things to give our client a phenomenal experience, right? By the way, if you guys don't have this book, this is Howard Lashner's book, right? 10 Common Mistakes Financial Advisors Make and Simple Ideas to Avoid Them. Howard Lashner, right? You can get this on Amazon. Phenomenal book. So the thing is, it's like, oh, you know what? I forgot why I was even mentioning that right now. Y'all got excited about like, Howard, he's such a beast, man. But even in that book, quick, what was I going to say? I can't remember. Anyways, whatever it was awesome. Okay. Right. But get that book. Okay. So, anyway, so I was talking about,
You're talking about the reputation.
Oh yeah. So about Shack, right? Okay. So anyway, so I'm kind of like overcoming that, like objection ahead of time. Okay. Right. Like, I'm acknowledging that, there's some don't really train their people quite right. Kind of give us a bad name. We're not like, I'm like that, but that's humanity. We're not immune to that. Thank you, Dominic, for that post. It's like, we're not immune to it. So I address that up front so that if they ever Google it up, and stuff like that in the future, they know, as to honor my mama, Korean Taika, Google it up, so that they know that it's like, okay, they get it, right? I'm already explaining it. But I make that into a positive, and I talk about how I chose to go to another state to work with, right? To work with Shaq. He was the MVP, SVP and stuff. I remember him getting that thing. I was like, that's pretty dang awesome and stuff like that. I talk about his track record. Okay. So another thing is, right, that might not be your track record, but you can leverage your upline's track record. Again, credibility. If I'm going to hand you my life savings, I want to know that you guys are rock solid. Okay. If you think about it, right, as, in like real estate and stuff. Okay. Real estate people love, like, on their billboards, whatever. It's like, number one in the DMV, whatever. And it might be in their office of like 3 people, but they're number one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do like a lot of like, things with like art, real estate people and stuff too. They like, honestly, I'm trying to learn more about how they continue to develop clients and do this and do that and whatever, market themselves, because like they, in some ways, honestly, it's like they have to. Like, how often is somebody going to buy and sell a house? Once every 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Okay. Right. We're constantly kind of working with people's money, and it's a much shorter sales cycle, so to speak. We're able to help them a lot quicker. But for them, it's like, man, how do I stay relevant with you for like 20, 30, 40 years, whatever. Right. But anyways, look into some of the things that they do. But, I talk about his track record, right? And then I go into my track record. If you have any sort of track record, talk about it. Right? Especially with the company. Okay. I know not everybody can be like, oh, I got the number 1 plaque, things like that. Like, the plaques are there strategically, right? Like, doctors have doctor offices with their, degrees and stuff like that in there, right? That's another thing that when you look at other professionals, and look at what the other top people, in Primerica are doing on their Zooms. What is their Zoom, like for us now, right? What's the Zoom environment? What do you have behind you? And what does that say about you? Okay, right? So I, strategically tried to create. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I would like to spend more time thinking about it. I just didn't really have a chance. But I wanted to at least have a background that spoke a little bit to me. Okay, right? So what do I got? I got the RVP plaque. I know Hoffman's, you guys we basically got our plaque at the same time, right? Like in Hawaii, right? So it's like, or your MIT, I think that one's that might be my MIT plaque. So it's like, I got that plaque, right? I got my #1 plaque. I got my, top 10 and my top 10, right? Like the company plaques, they kind of match whatever is right. You might not have that, but, like I see Dominic got a #1 behind his shoulder. That's what's up. You know what I'm saying? Oh, there's your RVP. Yes, behind Dominic's head, he has to be like, hey, I'm an RVP. What up? Right? But it's like, but that they can kind of like see that, right? Honestly, Dominic, I know that it's balanced that way, but I might put that to the side of you. I mean, something to consider, right? And stuff like that, right? But it's like, or whatever, right? Whatever it is. And if you don't have any like, brass or whatever they call it, those things, whatever it is, like work hard to try to get something if you can. But if you can't, something very professional, very nice, things like that, right? I have pictures of my nieces and stuff that have always been in my office, but, I have that there because, so that they see also that I'm human, right? Again, like and trust. Anyways, so I talked a lot about kind of like setting the stage, okay? I'm going to go over some of like these slides. Does anybody have any questions about that so far? No, not a question at all. Okay,
I have a question.
Oh yes, Ian.
Do you actually say the part about, there's an office up the street from me and
I don't say who. I think y'all know who that is.
I don't know, but the point is that it's just that you put that's part of the separation.
Right? I mean, the reality is this, okay? And not that we're like disparaging our brothers and sisters in the business. God bless them, for real skis, right? But if we have like about 140,000 licensed agents and they can work with anybody, and they can, just like in real estate, just like in cars, there's so many dealerships, there's so many, like, why would they work with you, right? And if you kind of go through the information of like in my story, I talk about me and the process I went through, right? Not to be like me, okay, right? But it's like, okay, this as a client, as a person potentially considering to work with the company, this is what I went through, okay? And so they're like, oh, well, you kind of already went through all of it. You already vetted the company. You already have experienced the success and the success as a client and things like that. It's good. You're good. You went through this process. You found the best office. Whatever it was, things like that and everything. So it's like you've achieved these things again, it's okay to showcase your success, like being Korean and stuff like that. Like we kind of don't do that. Right. But Shaq told me day one when he was like, well, let's talk about your story. Like, tell me about yourself. He said, oh, you have to say, I was like, I never talk about that. He's like, but here you do, right? Because you need to show whatever it is. Right. So it's like, so it's okay. And not in like a cocky way, obviously with a genuine good heart, and share your story with your upline or someone else. Be like, hey, does it sound like, how's it sound? Right. And stuff like that. Okay. But also my story has evolved a little bit as I got feedback, experience, and there's some things like my story is generally my story, but sometimes I mention things more or less based on who I'm meeting with. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, but yes, I do, like, Ian, it's about that separation, and it's about addressing things. Like my whole KT is bringing up the objections that they're most likely going to already have ahead of time, talking about it ahead of time, because then boom, it's out on the table, and that they're thinking this, right? That question is now relieved, and they don't need to think about that anymore, because otherwise it blocks them up, because I even talk about, and I'll go over this in the slides, but I talk about, like how we get paid, right? My experience has been, especially in certain markets, especially in people, like when they talk about investments, they want to know how you get paid. Why? You need to understand this. I know a lot of us did not grow up working with brokerages ourselves as clients, okay? All right. But the people that do, and a lot of your bigger investment clients already have, experience with this, or at least ancillary experience where they're like, I know that you pay fees. I know it's expensive. That's why I don't have investments, this, that, whatever, because guess what? The rest of the industry is like that. Okay, right? But we're different. But you need to understand that's what they're thinking. You know, so that's why it's so important to really, to kind of get in that mindset of what's going on with this client, right? And think back to yourself when you were a client, what your questions were, things like that. What made you comfortable with whomever it was that you first became a client with and this and that? Why? Why did you do business? And you want to kind of portray those things and things like that as well. Okay. So anyways, let me go over like some of these slides and everything. Ian, does that help a little bit? So yes, I do. I don't say who, right? I'm trying to honor and respect everybody, but I will, you know, say what needs to be said because that's reality. Okay. And it's the same thing with like, you know, Americans. An American could go, I heard about this story of like this, you know, young man who went over to like Japan, like straight up got in so much trouble over it. He's an American boy. I think his family was military, whatever, got in so much trouble. I think he was like ultimately deported, whatever. What do you think the Japanese people would think about American kids, right? Like that's not all American kids. They're phenomenal, upstanding American kids. But this one boy caused a huge ruckus over there, you know, but that doesn't make every American kid bad, but that was maybe a lot of people's experience. They're like, oh, Americans like that or whatever, right? That was my best Japanese accent, you guys, you know, just don't judge me. So anyways, all right, oh my goodness, it's the same accent, you know, for everybody. Okay, so let me share with you the slides. Okay, I'll go ahead and kind of like, and I'll say them and then I'll talk to them real quick. If my PowerPoint wants to be my friend. Come on, PowerPoint. Quick, Dominic, say a prayer. All right, hold on. Pinwheel of Death. If anybody knows of like a Mac expert and stuff like that, by the way, like that can help me figure out what's going on in the. Oh, really, Dominic? Oh, excellent. Excellent. See, you guys, he is a genius. Dominic Hoffman, you guys. But I'll reach out to you like a bit later on or something, but I would like super appreciate that. All right, so share screen. All right, so these are the slides. Okay, actually, you know, I'm gonna, I'll just do it this way. That's fine. Okay, so actually I'll do it this way just to make things more interesting. Okay, so of course, you know, we start out with this slide, things like that. That's great. You know, on this slide, basically, I talk about, you know, hey, thank you guys. These are the 3 outcomes. Okay, so I'll say my verbiage on the slide, but also the reason why is, you know, the value piece. And I know you guys kind of know this, but this is kind of how well, I don't know. Do you guys need me to go over that? I don't think you really do, or something like that. Ian's like, yes, we do. Okay, right. All right. So, so thank you again so much, you know, Tina and Andy. We really appreciate your time. You know, now one thing about us is that we actually do no marketing and advertising. All we do is just word of mouth. And that's actually a strategic move because, you know, advertising is very expensive. Ultimately, the clients have to pay. So in order to keep costs down, we just do word of mouth, kind of like what we're doing here. Okay. But when we sit with people, generally 3 things happen. 1, people get excited and they think about other people that can benefit from what we do. So as you think about other folks, definitely, you know, let Ian know and everything. We're happy to see what we can do to help. Okay. The other thing is most people find a lot of value themselves. They're like, whoa, can you, you could do that for me, can you? You know, right? And so if there's something that we can do to help you, of course, we'll be happy to help, not a problem, right? But really what we're looking for is partnership. You know, so our problem is not finding clients. Okay. We get a lot of referrals, right? Because of the work we do. But, you know, our biggest problem is having enough people trained up to meet the need. So we're looking for 4 kinds of people. 1, we look for our referral partners. These are people that are like, hey, love what you do, think it's great, not for me, don't have time, but I know people, right? So as you send folks to us, we'll do all the work, right? But you get paid too. So on average, our licensed referral partners make, you know, an extra $500 to $1,000 so a month just sending people, you know, no time, no effort, okay? And by the way, some really great people are like CPAs, you know, mortgage brokers, real estate agents, hairstylists, just people that know people, business people, things like that, okay? So also we look for people on a part-time basis. So these are folks that, you know, can work as much or as little as they want. There's no schedules, there's no quotas, no have-tos, nothing like that, right? But people on average choose to work about a day or so a week. and make generally between $2,000 and $4,000 a month, right? So it's fantastic. And even now with the whole COVID thing, right? It's like, you know, you turn on your laptop to show on to work, super convenient than ever before, okay? Then also we look for people on a full-time basis. So these are folks that are maybe like, you know, like kids that are getting out of high school, college, looking for, you know, work, employment, a career path. But also there are a lot of people like myself too, especially at times like this, looking to do a career change. Okay, so we make 6-figure plus incomes, but have a way better quality of life than like dying and crying, you know, in corporate America, right? And then what we're really looking for are entrepreneurs, the people that just want it all in life, right? So we make 6 and even 7 figures a year. You know, it's a fun fact. We actually have the most 6-figure plus and $1 million plus a year earners than any other company out there. We actually have now 105 families making over $1 million a year, and over 4,000 making over 6 figures. So if you know people, big goals and dreams, right, statistically speaking, they're gonna have their best shot to make that kind of income here, okay? So what is it that I'm saying on here? First of all, I'm talking about fees and costs, right? So it's like all we do is work, because the other thing is this, they might even think that it's weird that you're doing a presentation. You know, like, why are you doing a presentation? Who does a presentation? Like, is this one of those things? You know, stuff like that, right? So we're addressing that objection up front, being like, look, strategically, we chose not to market and advertise. Again, taking what was potentially a weakness, like we ain't see you on TV, right? And turning that into a strength, okay? So we do no marketing or advertising. We keep costs really low, right? And then of course the intention statement, the excitement. Hey, if you know folks, tell us, right? Referral seats, okay? Value, okay? Now the way that I say the value piece is, yeah, you know, like, and most people, right? So this is like, you know, a Tom Hopkins, like understand, like, most people do this, right? We're letting them know. And it's absolutely true. Most people are like, snap, that's the bomb. Can you do that for me? Right? Like I can't even remember the last person that didn't want to move forward on something. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying like toot my own horn, but it's like when it makes sense, it makes sense. Okay, right? So, you know, value, but I say it in a very casual way, you know, where it's just kind of like, you know, so if there's something interests you, of course we'll help. Not a problem. That's cool. Right? I'm not like, will ya? You know, right? You know, so, but like we drop that seed because guess what, folks? It's like, yeah, duh. You know, most people are like this, of course, not a problem. That's cool, right? So we're being positively assumptive, right? Like how Shaq always talks about, we assume people love their families and want to do better, right? We're being assumptive that it's like they're logical people. This makes sense, y'all. That's not us just like using our sales skills. Like Primerica makes sense, okay, right? And then the partnership piece, we drop those seeds there and stuff like that. By the way, part of the reason why I talk about referral partners, those types of people, one, they make phenomenal referral partners. I've been getting a lot of referral clients from, you know, this CPA that's like, I never had anybody to send, you know, anybody to, right? But also that helps us in our credibility. Because again, think about it. You're in your client's shoes. They might think you're some hokey pokey, this, that, whatever. Okay, right? You need to let them know, hey, we partner with, boom, mortgage brokers, CPAs, real estate agents. These are professionals. You know what I'm saying? And I also throw in like the hairstylists because they know folks, you know what I'm saying, right? And just show them, hey, we could work with everybody's a good referral source. Anyway, so that's not about investments, but I hope that that's helpful, okay? So then, you know, we go over, you know, the crisis, things like that. Of course, you guys know how to kind of like present that. You know, this is the piece here, right? Less than 25,000, you know, so, you know, less, you know, more than half of workers have less than 25,000 saved for retirement, which means what? They're not going to be able to retire. Okay. So in another day and another time, if Shaq wants me to, I can go over these things, right? But it's like, what am I saying here? If there are people that don't have a lot of money, this is that first plant. It's like, look, you know, like with each one of these things, you know, so there's a big need for what we do out there, right? People are swimming in debt. Average household, 16,000 in credit card debt. 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 95 million adults have no life insurance. Like you ever see those GoFundMe's? People can't even bury their debt, let alone was the 2-year-old gonna have to get a job, right? That's a life insurance plan, okay? And then more than half of workers have less than 25,000 saved for retirement, which means what? They're not gonna be able to retire, okay? So I'm like, boom, people need to be thinking about this. And also, what are they thinking? They're like, ooh, how much do I have saved for retirement? Will I be able to retire? Because I'm letting them know right now, these folks with the less than 25 G's will not be able to retire. So where are you at? You know what I'm saying, right? Okay. So, and then of course we talk about this piece here, you know, approaching $1 trillion credit card debt, worker wages flat and falling, whatever, you know, this place he's. And then my next plant is here, okay? And then when people get smart enough or they get desperate enough and they're seeking professional financial help, many financial advisors say they are reluctant to take on new clients who don't have deep pockets. Basically, if you don't really have a lot of money and you don't have it all together, you're not worth our time. So who does that leave is the rest of us. So this is where we come in. Okay, so just taking it a step back. This last piece here, very important. I don't know how you guys do your KT, and like I said, I respect your uplines, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, you know, take the best, leave the rest, right? But this is what I do, and this is what helps, okay, right? This comment right here, not only is a great lead in to the next slide, right? But, you know, it's very important because I say when people get smart enough or they get desperate enough, okay? So what am I saying here? It's like, hey, if you're smart, you try to look for financial advice. And then I also let them know, it's like, hey, some people are in that desperate spot where they're afraid of saying things to people, you know, like, but they need some help, right? So it's like, these are typically the two things where it's like people are opportunistic and want to make the most of their money, right? Smart enough. Or straight up, that's real life, man. And life happens and they're looking for help, right? When people get smart, they get different enough. Many, and I say the piece here, right? So people are looking, they're searching, right? And then they get, boom, shut down and rejected. Many financial advisors say they are reluctant to take on new clients who don't have deep pockets. Basically, if you don't have a lot of money and you don't have it all together, you're not worth our time, right? So the whole point of these last two slides, right, is the whole like polarization again, you know, of like, hey, this is reality and the, you know, how bad it is out there and how, you know, financial companies are just making it worse, right? And this is like, you know, like the desperation of the American family, you know, and stuff like that, right? So this is an important piece, okay? So this is where we come in. We believe that everybody deserves the best of what's available in the financial industry, not just the wealthy few. So we were created for our families in the middle class, right? You know, now, we do have our wealthy clients, right? I got my $1 million clients. I won't say no to them, okay, right? But our heart is really for our families in the middle class, and we help in 3 important areas, okay? So let me back that up. So what am I saying here, right? We believe, right? So this is our heart, our mission. We believe that everybody, hey, that's you too, right? Deserves what? The best of what's available in the financial industry. Because they don't know. It's like, hey, we don't charge fees, this, that, we're meeting in your house, whatever. We're not like those fancy places downtown, whatever. They're like, are you legit? Are you professional? Like, are you, you know, it's like, honestly, okay, as much as I love Walmart now, right? You know, in the early days, I was petrified at shopping at Walmart because I'm like, their toothpaste, is it really Crest? You know, like, is it really Kraft? Like, is it really? Or is it like, you know, like, what's in the box, y'all? You know what I'm saying? I didn't understand that. So it might be the same thing here. They're like, are you second rate? Do you really have that? I'm like, deserve the best of what's available in the financial industry, not just the wealthy few. Hey, that's you too, right? You know, and then I say, so we were created to help our families, inclusion, right? In that middle class, right? Now, we do have our wealthy clients, got our $1 million clients, won't say no to that, right? But our heart is to help our families. I say that very strategic. I let them know. I let them know, y'all. You know what I'm saying? It's like, can you imagine Ben Shepherd's gonna be making what's that $600,000 in income on one client, helping that one client, right? Imagine how many millions of dollars. Like, look, we are world class and we do have access to world class things. Literally, like all this American fun stuff, best of the best of the best in the world. Look at the Morningstar report in the world. Okay, right? We have access to that. We're not fly by night. We're not hokey pokey. We're not whatever it is, right? Like, shoot, you know, and we do have $1 million clients. You might not have $1 million clients yet, okay? But we do. Excuse me, your office does. Primerica does. We for sure have a lot of $1 million clients. And the reason why I say that is to let them know, okay? One of two things. If they are, you know, like hoity-toity and things like that, you know, and like, you know, upper middle class, maybe even they got 7 figures, right? Sometimes you don't know. It's like the millionaire next door, right? But it's like, I let them know, hey, look, we're competing on the same level. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're right there. Hey, and we got clients like that, you know, and then the people that are like, it's from America, you know, stuff like that, right? And they're all like, they might not have a lot of money and all this kind of stuff, right? But you let them know, we got there are people with millions of dollars that want to and do business with us. So you and your $50 a month pack, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, you best to know, you know? So that's official financial speak, you know, right? But I mean, but that's kind of like where, and of course with love,